Volume 2, Part 18 of Herodotus' Histories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Graham Redman. Histories, Volume 2, by Herodotus of Halicarnassus, translated by A.D. Godley. Volume 2, Part 18. While still in the city, the generals first sent to Sparta the herald Philippides, an Athenian and a long-distance runner, who made that his calling. As Philippides himself said when he brought the message to the Athenians, when he was in the Parthenian mountain above Tegea, he encountered Pan. Pan called out Philippides' name, and bade him ask the Athenians why they paid him no attention, though he was of good will to the Athenians, had often been of service to them, and would be in the future. The Athenians believed that these things were true, and when they became prosperous they established a sacred precinct of Pan beneath the Acropolis. Ever since that message, they propitiate him with annual sacrifices and a torch race. This Philippides was in Sparta on the day after leaving the city of Athens, that time when he was sent by the generals, and said that Pan had appeared to him. He came to the magistrates and said, "Lacedaemonians, the Athenians ask you to come to their aid, and not allow the most ancient city among the Hellenes to fall into slavery at the hands of the foreigners. Even now Eretria has been enslaved, and Hellas has become weaker by an important city." He told them what he had been ordered to say, and they resolved to send help to the Athenians, but they could not do this immediately, for they were unwilling to break the law. It was the 9th day of the rising month, and they said that on the 9th they could not go out to war until the moon's circle was full. So they waited for the full moon, while the foreigners were guided to Marathon by Hippias, son of Pisistratus. The previous night Hippias had a dream in which he slept with his mother. He supposed from the dream that he would return from exile to Athens, recover his rule, and end his days an old man in his own country. Thus he reckoned from the dream. Then, as guide, he unloaded the slaves from Eretria onto the island of the Styrians called Aegylia, and brought to anchor the ships that had put ashore at Marathon, then marshalled the foreigners who had disembarked onto land. As he was tending to this, he happened to sneeze and cough more violently than usual. Since he was an elderly man, most of his teeth were loose, and he lost one of them by the force of his cough. It fell into the sand, and he expended much effort in looking for it, but the tooth could not be found. He groaned aloud, and said to those standing by him, "This land is not ours, and we will not be able to subdue it. My tooth holds whatever share of it was mine." Hippias supposed that the dream had in this way come true. As the Athenians were marshalled in the precinct of Heracles, the Plataeans came to help them in full force. The Plataeans had put themselves under the protection of the Athenians, and the Athenians had undergone many labours on their behalf. This is how they did it. When the Plataeans were pressed by the Thebans, they first tried to put themselves under the protection of Cleomenes, son of Anaxandrides, and the Lacedaemonians, who happened to be there. But they did not accept them, saying, "We live too far away, and our help would be cold comfort to you. You could be enslaved many times over before any of us heard about it. We advise you to put yourselves under the protection of the Athenians, since they are your neighbours, and not bad men at giving help." The Lacedaemonians gave this advice not so much out of goodwill toward the Plataeans, as wishing to cause trouble for the Athenians with the Boeotians. So the Lacedaemonians gave this advice to the Plataeans, who did not disobey it. When the Athenians were making sacrifices to the 12 gods, they sat at the altar as suppliants, and put themselves under protection. When the Thebans heard this, they marched against the Plataeans, but the Athenians came to their aid. As they were about to join battle, the Corinthians, who happened to be there, prevented them and brought about a reconciliation. Since both sides desired them to arbitrate, they fixed the boundaries of the country on condition that the Thebans leave alone those Boeotians who were unwilling to be enrolled as Boeotian. After rendering this decision, the Corinthians departed. The Boeotians attacked the Athenians as they were leaving, but were defeated in battle. The Athenians went beyond the boundaries the Corinthians had made for the Plataeans, fixing the Asopus River as the boundary for the Thebans in the direction of Plataea and Hysiae. So the Plataeans had put themselves under the protection of the Athenians in the aforesaid manner, and now came to help at Marathon. The Athenian generals were of divided opinion, some advocating not fighting because they were too few to attack the army of the Medes, others, including Miltiades, advocating fighting. Thus they were at odds, and the inferior plan prevailed. An 11th man had a vote, chosen by lot to be Polemarch of Athens, and by ancient custom the Athenians had made his vote of equal weight with the generals. Callimachus of Aphidne was Polemarch at this time. Miltiades approached him and said, "Callimachus, it is now in your hands to enslave Athens, or make her free, and thereby leave behind for all posterity a memorial such as not even Harmodius and Aristogiton left. Now the Athenians have come to their greatest danger since they first came into being, and if we surrender, it is clear what we will suffer when handed over to Hippias. But if the city prevails, it will take first place among Hellenic cities. I will tell you how this can happen, and how the deciding voice on these matters has devolved upon you. The 10 generals are of divided opinion, some urging to attack, others urging not to. If we do not attack now, I expect that great strife will fall upon and shake the spirit of the Athenians, leading them to Medes. But if we attack now, before anything unsound corrupts the Athenians, we can win the battle, if the gods are fair. All this concerns and depends on you in this way. If you vote with me, your country will be free, and your city the first in Hellas. But if you side with those eager to avoid battle, you will have the opposite to all the good things I enumerated." By saying this, Miltiades won over Callimachus. The Polemarch's vote was counted in, and the decision to attack was resolved upon. Thereafter the generals who had voted to fight turned the presidency over to Miltiades as each one's day came in turn. He accepted the office, but did not make an attack until it was his own day to preside. When the presidency came round to him, he arrayed the Athenians for battle, with the Polemarch Callimachus commanding the right wing, since it was then the Athenian custom for the Polemarch to hold the right wing. He led, and the other tribes were numbered out in succession next to each other. The Plataeans were marshalled last, holding the left wing. Ever since that battle, when the Athenians are conducting sacrifices at the festivals every 4th year, the Athenian herald prays for good things for the Athenians and Plataeans together. As the Athenians were marshalled at Marathon, it happened that their line of battle was as long as the line of the Medes. The centre, where the line was weakest, was only a few ranks deep, but each wing was strong in numbers. When they had been set in order, and the sacrifices were favourable, the Athenians were sent forth, and charged the foreigners at a run. The space between the armies was no less than 8 stadia. The Persians saw them running to attack, and prepared to receive them, thinking the Athenians absolutely crazy, since they saw how few of them there were, and that they ran up so fast without either cavalry or archers. So the foreigners imagined, but when the Athenians all